Everyone who joined, hi, this is Joel from Online Testcom headquarters, obviously. And we are pre-starting day 3. I will officially start day 3 after this session in about 2 hours. But one of the things that we choose to do differently, we're always innovating in the OTC, or at least trying to keep it real, keep it new. And we said, hey, we need to do something that it's a little bit more in-depth than the sessions we do. They're great, but sometimes as a speaker and as someone who's there, we feel that we could have gone a little bit deeper. And so we said, hey, let's try to do workshops, okay? So we are here, and I'm really honored to have my friend Raj Subrameyer, who agreed to come here. And I met Raj about, I think, 2-3 years ago when you were working on testing and product. And since then, I've seen you make, again, go in a different path. It's a very interesting one. One thing that I love is your story of applying on, I'm not going to go too much into it, but applying a whole bunch of jobs on one point in time, because it shows perseverance in a sense. And I remember a story that I tell a lot of times to people that I get to interact with, and that is that I was working, I think, was back in 2000. Remember, because it was this company that I work on the year 2K. And I remember sitting one time, and we were hiring for testers, and I remember sitting in my office, and the HR manager came and says, there's someone here to apply for a testing job. And I was like, I looked at my calendar, and I was like, I don't have an interview for today, so how come? She said, no, you didn't get it. He came here, and he's applying for a testing job. And we're looking for testers, so what the heck? I'm going to sit down and talk to him. And I sit in this room, and I see a kid, 17-year-old kid. And he puts a piece of, he opens a folder, puts a page in front of me. That's his CV, and I go over it, and he's just fresh out of high school. For those of you who don't know, in Israel, we have compulsory army. So he was in that stage where he finished high school. He had about 9 months until he got to the army. And I'd say, hey, what are you doing here? And he was like, I have 9 months, and I already know what I'm going to do in the army. I'm going to be in infantry and stuff. But I think that computers is what I want to do afterwards. And I didn't want to waste 9 months doing nothing. So I talked to a friend of mine. He said, you might want to apply for a testing job. And so I didn't know who to contact. So I printed a lot of CVs. And I came to this building, took the elevator to the top floor, and started going down place by place. And now we were in floor 34, and that building had 45 floors. So he had already done, do the math, 11 floors since then. And I interviewed him, and it was a great position for an intern. And I hired him. And he was one of my best interns ever. Now, about 2 weeks into the job, I went to this guy and said, hey, you know what? Something's still hanging me. So let's assume for a second that you would have come and you go over the 45 floors of the first building, and no one hired you. What would you have done? And he looked at me naive, and he said, well, you know what? There were plenty of buildings in here, so next day I would have gone to the next one.
Right.
And that showed me the kind of person that this guy was. And he was like that at work. So I said, sometimes it takes approaches, and it resounded very much with your story. So that's what I wanted to tell. That's my story. So people, I'm not going to steal any more from your time. Raj, the floor is yours, and we're all ears. I'm here if you need anything from me.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to start my timer here. Cool. Welcome, everyone, to today's workshop. I'm super excited to be doing this in a really short form. Before we get started, there's some housekeeping stuff I wanted to cover first. I know people are joining in from different parts of the world, so make sure you have your coffee if it's morning, or beer if it's evening. I don't judge, so make sure you're hydrated, because for the next 90 minutes, you're gonna learn from the fire hose, different strategies to set you up for success in 2021. And we are doing this workshop online, so if there are going to be some glitches, please bear with us, because we are trying our best as well. I have the chat window open on one screen over here, so if there's any problems or anything, you want to share, keep sharing it on the chat window. I have like 3 screens around here, so you're going to see me going back and forth.
Raj,
So,
I'm gonna save that from you. I'm monitoring the chat. Anything comes through the chat, I'll stop you.
oh, okay, then that's good to know. And then this is going to be an interactive session, and it's going to be super informal. And for people who worked with me or know me, I love having fun and having a lot of interaction. So there's nothing going to be too complicated, I promise. But I'm going to give you actionable items which you can implement in your life right now, again, to have amazing personal and careers in 2021. And as I said, keep asking questions in the chat window. And then we have only 90 minutes. So I usually do this as a 1 day workshop, right? And I have now 90 minutes to do it. So bear with me if I give you only a little bit of time during certain exercises, because my goal today is to give you as much information as possible to make these 90 minutes one of the best 90 minutes in at online test conference. That is my goal. So I am going to give you a lot of information. Keep taking a lot of notes. After the workshop, I'm going to be hanging out on Slack as well. So keep asking me questions and I'm going to be there. Okay. We'll have a total of 4 exercises and a demo, which you're going to see. I also put a link on our chat. It's a Google Drive link, which has 4 materials, which you can download, which we'll be using as a reference during our workshop as well. So in the next 10 minutes, whenever you get a chance, just download them. It'll take you literally like 15 seconds. It's just a PDF document. And finally, I'll have an online timer on the screen whenever we do any exercise. And when the timer goes up, that means the time is up. And we discuss what we did and then we move on, okay? Because of the time constraint, I'll take 1 or 2 questions during my session, and then I'll try to have more time for Q&A towards the end. But don't worry, I'll make sure all your questions are answered, okay? So with that being said, let me see, there's a question here. Would it be possible to have the files here? I do not have Slack installed. I actually put the Google Drive link on Zoom right now, but I'm going to copy it again over here. And so that's the link which I shared again. You can download the documents there. Okay, cool. So I know I did a lot of housekeeping stuff. So if you're ready to go, put a smiley face on the chat window, and then let's get started. Awesome, awesome. That's the excitement I needed. So cool, let's get started. So Joel shared a really inspiring story. And I think a lot of ideas come from stories, right? And this workshop comes from my personal story as well. And so I wanted to set some context first on why I came up with this workshop and what you can expect to learn from this workshop. Because this workshop is not only for people who are looking for jobs. This workshop is not only people who are interviewing. It's also for people who are already have jobs and want to be successful, right? And this story is going to set some context to it. So I grew up in the southern part of India in a conservative middle-class family, and I'm the younger of the 2 kids. And from a young age, I had this inferiority complex that I wasn't good enough. That's because my dad was super smart, my brother was a genius, and there I was, the average kid who didn't do well in academics. I was average in everything, like academics, sports, dating, you name it, right? So I tried really hard to emulate other overachievers around me. I put a lot of pressure on myself to stand up, to level up to their expectations. But every time I try to do that, I ended up getting disappointed because I could never meet people's expectations. So because of that, I developed anxiety, stress, depression, fear of rejection. In fact, the funny story is I still remember this. During my eighth grade, I had this crush on this girl, and every time she passed me, I used to get nervous, and it took me 3 weeks just to say hi to her because every time I approached her, I was sweating, I was gasping for breath, I was a nervous wreck, right? So I'm talking about that type of Raj when I was growing up. So all these things followed till I started my career in IT. Because when got my first job in IT, which was about 15 years ago, I made a vow for myself that, you know what? I'm tired of living such a life. I am going to start my personal and career transformation. I am in control of my life, right? And over the past 15 years, I've experimented with so many different things, which has transformed my life from the person you see on the left to the person now you see on the right and you see talking right now. So, how the hell did this transition happen where I converted my life from a shy, introverted tester earning a minimum salary into an international keynote speaker, author, and tech career coach running a six-figure business? How did that transition happen? That is what this workshop is going to be about today. I'm going to share all the secrets and all the strategies which I have followed personally in my life, and I've helped other clients of mine and other people in the testing industry to transform their life drastically from where they are to where they are, where they were to where they are right now. You're going to learn different strategies, which is going to help you find your dream career, help you be successful in it, and set you miles apart from your competition. So that's the goal for today. And following these strategies, I was voted as a star performer in 6 out of my last 7 companies. I've exponentially increased my salary by over 150%. And the best part of all of this is I am an average guy. If I can do it, so can you. And that's what this workshop is going to be about. Okay. So, a little bit about me before we get into the agenda. I'm a speaker, author, and tech career coach. So, mainly, I help people find their dream job in the tech industry and become successful leaders. I've been in the industry for over 15 years. I started off as a developer, then a tester, then a lead, a manager, a developer evangelist, and now running my own business. Also, I speak at a lot of conferences like this, and I love sharing my ideas on different things I've learned over the past 15, 20 years. And companies hire me to speak at their private events as well on various different topics like leadership, motivation, career advancement, software development, testing, AI, so on and so forth. And also, I love writing. I write for a lot of tech companies, sharing my knowledge on software testing as well. Anyways, to know more information about me, just hit my website and you're going to find all my work over there. So that's it about me. So this is going to be the agenda for today. We're going to start with what is called the DPA approach. And we're going to spend a lot of time on this one because without even knowing where you want to go, there's no use for me talking about career advancement and strategies. And this DPA approach, which I'm going to talk to you about, is going to help you transform not only in your careers, but in your personal life as well. I personally used this approach for the past 6 years, and I've had phenomenal growth just because this was a strategic way of planning your life. And we're going to talk about that. We'll have a lot of group exercises, and I'm going to take some real examples and teach you what to do versus what not to do when it comes to careers and when it comes to LinkedIn, right? So I'm going to share some LinkedIn secrets as well. And we'll talk about cracking interviews, salary negotiation, how to be successful at work. And again, this is not only for people who are looking for jobs, it's also for people who have a job and want to be successful. So that being said, let's get into our first item for today, which is the DPA approach. This is going to be a game changer for you, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this strategy, right? And we're going to work through it together and come up with some action plans. So the DPA approach is the discover, plan, and action approach, right? So it's a three-stage process to find your dream career, to find your strengths, and then focus on them. So the first part is discovering. So this is the thing. Let me give you a raw example of why you need to first identify your strengths. Say you're using Google Maps. You cannot you cannot not put the destination address and then expect to reach a destination, right? Without the destination address, there's no way you're going to reach the destination. And then you cannot complain that Google Maps is not working properly. Our careers are the exact same way. If you don't know where you're heading, if you don't know what your strengths are, if you don't know what your career options are, there's no use putting the hard work. Because Albert Einstein once said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And it's the exact same thing when it comes to our careers as well. And remember, everyone has a gift, everyone has strengths. We are born on this earth for a reason. It's our responsibility to find those strengths and then focus on them. And that's what we are going to do right now in the discover stage, where you're going to find your strengths. Okay. So the first step, stage one in discovering your strengths, is you have to do two things: finding what your interests are, and then identifying your buckets. And we're going to cover those things in a second. And again, don't get overwhelmed to digest all this kind of information, because you're going to have those downloads on the drive, and also I'm going to be available. So just take all this information one by one and take notes. That's what is going to help you out. So the first step in discovering your strengths is finding your interests. And the first step in that is the mind dump exercise. And this is going to be super powerful, people. And this is what is going to help you come up with goals for 2021. So what is the mind dump exercise? Mind dump exercise is a really simple exercise which helps to uncover a lot of things about what you want to do. So this is how you do it. Literally take a paper and pen. Okay. And don't worry, we're going to do the mind dump exercise right now. We're going to allocate some time, but this is in general how you do it. You take a paper and pen, or download the template from the link. Put a line vertically in the middle of the paper. On the left side of the paper, you're going to write down all the things you love to do. And on the right side of the paper, write down all the things you hate to do. And just by doing that, you're going to uncover so many things which are locked in your mind. And when you make them visible, you can start seeing patterns, right? Say, for example, in the things you like to do, you write something like you like technical stuff, you like to be challenged, you like to have more authority and freedom over what you do. You hate processes, then you hate managing teams, and you hate being micromanaged. Say that was part of your list. Then maybe your ideal job is going to be being a software developer at a startup company. Or say, for example, you say that you like being detail oriented. You like to see the bigger picture of things. You like to communicate with people. You like to collaboratively work with the team and figure out solutions. You hate working in silos, and you hate programming. If those were the list you came up with, then maybe being a project manager, a business analyst, a digital marketer may be the right fit for you. So that's the beauty of this exercise. You're going to uncover a lot of things about yourself when you do the mind dump exercise. And I periodically do it to make sure I'm aligning my work with what my strengths are. I know in your companies right now, you have these annual performance reviews and meetings where your managers are going to say, these are the improvement points. Let's work on the improvement points, right? I would suggest the opposite. Don't spend time on improving on your improvement areas, because you have your strengths, because your improvement areas are other people's strengths. I would say invest more time in your strengths, and then make 2021 all about that, right? So this is how an example mind dump exercise looks like. This is just a high level thing which I had done earlier. In terms of things I love to do, I personally love writing content. I love speaking. I love mentoring and coaching, and I love programming, right? Things I hate to do are admin tasks for work. And Joel and other people will agree with me that admin task sucks the life out of you, and I hate it. So you want to outsource that. Then I hate doing website maintenance, although I built my own websites, right? I hate doing customer support, and I hate doing marketing or sales. I hate doing that, right? There's just a really simple example of what a list, a mind dump list would look like, right? So if you're still with me, put a thumbs up in the chat window. I want to make sure you're following. I know it's a lot of information. Put a thumbs up on your in the chat window. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Great so far. Thank you, thank you. Want to make sure you're following me, because again, 90 minutes, I'm gonna load you with information. Okay, so with that being said, we could start with our first exercise here. This is what we're gonna do. Okay. And I'm gonna minimize this so that you could actually see what I'm wanted to do. So you're gonna take a paper and pen, okay? You're gonna write down the things you like to do, the things you hate to do, and it not necessarily have to be only career related. If you have personal goals in 2021, like you want to lose weight, you want to spend more time with family, don't uh, don't stop yourself in letting the ideas flow. And just doing this, you're going to find a lot of patterns in terms of careers and also in terms of personal growth. Usually you'll do this for an hour in an uninterrupted way with no messaging, no Facebooking, so that you let your mind flow. But since we have only certain amount of time, you're going to take 10 minutes, and then you're going to do this list. And in the link which I provided, which I'm going to copy again over here, you can, one second, hold on here. I provided a link, and in this link, the Google Drive link, you can find a mind dump template, and which will look like this, right? And you could use that as a reference. So if you have any questions, put that in the chat window regarding this exercise. But if it made sense, I'm going to start the timer for 10 minutes, and you're literally going to do the mind dump exercise right now. Okay? And let me make sure I close all the stuff here. Cool. So I'm going to start the timer right now. Oh, that was for 10 seconds. Sorry about that. I'm going to start the timer for 10 minutes over here. And let's do a mind dump right now. So the timer started. And again, for people who wanted to know what I'm talking about, this is what you're doing. For 10 minutes, you're going to write down different things you want to do in 2021, or you like to do in life in terms of your career and personal lives as well. Okay. And things you hate to do. And then we're going to discuss that after another 7-8 minutes. Okay. If you have any questions, put them on the chat window. I'm monitoring it. Um, And don't overthink this exercise. It's supposed to be really simple. Literally, you're writing down your thoughts. And for those people who are still skeptical about this, you'll see how it is going to map out your different goals and tasks, especially your career goals as well, in just a bit. You'll see. It'll start making sense for you. But this is the basic thing everyone has to do, no matter what career options are, what do you want to become. Usually, I like to also add music, like soothing music to calm you down. But I don't want to try anything spectacular right now. So
Why don't you take out a guitar and just play for a while? I mean,
I
heck, you can
know.
just whistle.
I actually have I have a relax music app. It's called Relax Melodies, and I'm gonna type that in on the chat window. I use it to go to sleep sometimes, especially when my kid is talking a lot in his sleep, which happens quite a bit. So I'm gonna type in the name of the app. Sorry, this is not related to your mind up exercise, but this is gonna really help out to calm you down. Relax Melodies app for relaxing sounds. And let me see. That's the river flowing.
Yeah, after drinking too much coffee, that might take you to another place. By the way, it's interesting, but I like you have Headspace, right? I'm guessing
Yeah.
you know Headspace.
Oh
So
yeah, I use Headspace. I've been using it for 3 years now.
they have I saw it. I think it was Headspace. Yes, it was Headspace. I use a couple. I also use Waking Up. It's great, but Headspace has like this long brown noise and relaxing
Yep.
ambience stuff. Yeah.
So for those of you who didn't know what we were talking about, Headspace is a meditation app. I do meditation every morning, and I've been using it for 3 years now. It's an amazing app where you have an actual monk who now started his own company, which is Headspace, and he does a guided meditation. And I think now a new, you have the female voice as well. The female voice, I think, started recently. It was not there before. I highly recommend that. Go check it out. It's called Headspace, and similar apps to Headspace is Calm, Calm, Calm. That is really good as well. Definitely go check it out. But cool, we have another about 3 minutes left, 3.5 minutes, and then we'll talk about what list you have. Um, and again, all these things are going to make sense, and I'm going to show you how we can map all these things into actionable items as well. And then we'll talk about more specific stuff related to work as well. So, In fact, currently as I'm speaking, I'm in the process of mapping out my 2021 goals, and I literally have those goals on the side over here. I don't want to move the screen and disrupt anything, but yeah, I make all my goals visual, and it helps me focus my priorities based on that as well. So you're going to see that um, in a bit as well. We are going to do it as a team. Another couple of minutes more. And at any point, if you have questions or something, make sure you put that in the chat window. Um, we can try to answer them as well. So we have about a minute and a half left. We have about 30 seconds left. That was our alarm for our exercise. Cool. So you can, whatever you have is just enough, and you can always continue after the workshop to write to write down stuff on the list. Um, let me share my screen again. One second, hold on here. Cool. So let's spend 5 minutes to a couple of minutes to discuss what you had on the list, just to give some idea for people. So if anyone is willing to share what they have on the list, say share on the chat window, then I'll know your name, and then I could call you out, and then you can unmute yourself and then share what you have. And then we can start identifying different patterns from it. It could be anything you want to share on the list. So just in the chat window, say you would like to share, and then you could unmute yourself. Awesome. Paulo said he wants to share. Paulo, why don't you unmute yourself and let us know what you have on your list. You can start with things you like to do, and then talk about things you hate to do.
Okay, so I like to help people's improvement. Like to help people. I like to do functional testing. I really like to learn things. I like to do documentation, like to arrange processes and everything, like to create processes.
Mm-hmm.
What I dislike is like to be micromanagement. I
Mm-hmm.
something that it takes my nerves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't say that I hate, but I don't like too much is to like to develop to program
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like very bad to when I giving feedback to peers, like to other people. So, but I know that is something that I usually you need to do, but something that I really don't like to do.
Oh, you don't like giving feedback to people? It makes
No,
you
because
nervous?
yes, exactly. Yeah, like I don't know if they are going to receiving well or something like that. So it's feel like it makes me feel like uncomfortable doing that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, that's the thing that I wrote so far.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, just to recap, in things you like to do, you like to improve things. It could be improve processes. Then you like functional testing and the functional aspect of it. You like to learn new things. You like documentation, right? And then, in terms of things you hate to do, you said you hate being micromanaged. You don't want to be technical. I won't say you don't want to be technical. You said you don't want to do programming. That doesn't mean you don't want to be
Yes.
technical. They're two different things. And then you're nervous about giving feedback. So this is an amazing list. So just with this list, we can find some patterns, right? So say for example, you're looking for a new job or you're looking for a promotion. Okay. Says a recruiter comes to you and says, "Hey, we have an opening for a software developer in test, and your profile seems to be really good. Would you like to join, or would you like to interview with us?" Right now, since you have this list, you know you can map out your strengths and dislikes based on the job. So, going with the same example, if they say, "Do you want to interview for a software development engineer?" or even in your company, if they want to move you to a uh, engineer in test, your answer is going to be probably no, because if you're doing engineering and test, then you would have to do programming, and so immediately that's a good filtering system to know not to do that. But coming, let's just analyze your positives for a second, right? Based on what the positive things you just mentioned, I can immediately say that you could be a business analyst, you could be a quality analyst, uh, 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 um, you could be a technical writer, you could be um, say a product manager, a process manager, or I won't say manager yet, because you said you were nervous about giving feedback. But if you want to become a manager, you would have to give feedback to people. So that is also something which you can learn, because you know that you have to do work on that, right? So quality analyst, business analyst, requirements analyst, and then uh, a product person, right? Those are all some things which seems to be fitting based on your strengths, right? And of course, I usually do a detailed profile analysis on people, and then we narrow down the scope. But since we are have only so much time, so this isn't quickly. These are things which you could probably do. But in terms of things you hate, you said you hate being micromanaged, which means you probably do not want to work in a really large company, because they have a lot of processes, a lot of red tapes, and the possibility of being micromanaged is going to be more. So, say you're looking for your next job, or you're looking for a change in a career, then you may want to focus on more startup and mid-tier companies where the possibilities of being micromanaged is slightly lesser. You see where I'm going with this? Just by the 10, 8 to 9 things you listed, you can start identifying patterns in terms of what you like, what career options are good for you, what type of companies are good for you. And this is an example of why the mind dump exercise is really, really powerful. So Thanks for sharing that. And we'll keep moving on. And if you have time, other people can share as well. And then I can help you find patterns. But this mind dump exercise is super powerful to uncover stuff. Because the problem is we say yes to everything without even thinking whether that's the right thing for us. And then we say that our careers are failing. That's because we are focused on things which interest us, right? So that is something you want to keep in mind. Okay. So that was the goal of this exercise. Thank you, Paula. Appreciate it. So this is the first part of the discovering stage where you did the mind dump exercise. And then also go further ahead and ask some questions about what was some of your success stories? What was some things you did which impacted other people, right? Write those things down as well. And just by having this whole list, you can find these patterns about what your next career option should be or what your next goal in life should be as well. So that is the discover stage in the DPA approach, where you're figuring out your strengths based on the mind dump exercise, based on your success stories, and based on what you think will impact others as well, right? And then you're going to identify your buckets. When I say buckets, it's just different career options. So just as I was saying, telling Paulo that, and I'm hopefully pronouncing your name right, so I apologize if not, but I was telling her that she could be getting into product roles, business roles, then quality analyst roles, right? Because she doesn't want to do programming, because not all jobs need programming. It just needs the curiosity and the willingness to learn, which she said was one of her strengths and one of the things she likes to do. So your buckets would be all these career options which I just mentioned. And that's what I call identifying your buckets. Okay. So that is stage one, the discover stage, right? The next thing is the planning stage. So there's this quote which goes like this: a goal without a plan is just a wish. A goal without a plan is just a wish. So before getting into vision, goals, and tasks, and again, all these things which I'm mentioning right now is the most important thing you have to do even before talking about career advancement, right? So that's why I'm taking you through this process and spending some time. So just go along with me, and it's going to make sense as and when we get into more of the sections. So first, let's demystify what these terminologies means: vision, goals, task, mission, right? Your mission is your objective in terms of why you're doing what you're doing, right? So for example, my mission is to transform people's personal lives and careers through my experiences. That's my mission, MISSION, mission. Then you have vision. Vision is what would you like to be in the future? A speaker, a manager, a director, a lead, a senior engineer, right? Then you have the goals. Those are the things you want to accomplish to reach your vision, right? And then you have the tasks. Those are the different things you need to do to reach your goals. So you have the mission, vision, goals, and tasks, right? So let me walk you through an example here. So first step in the planning stage is identifying your vision, right? So to help do that, here are some questions you can ask yourself. What would make you happy in your career? It could be money, it could be responsibility, it could be job description, whatever that may be. Would achieving that goal be really meaningful to you, right? So if I'm a senior quality analyst, if I'm a lead quality analyst, does that mean anything? Or for me, the money is more important than the job title. So think about that. Will the particular career option make an impact on your life and others around you? And how do you see yourself several years from now if you go in that particular career path or particular vision you identified, right? So those are some questions you want to ask yourself when you want to identify your vision. So for example, at the end of 2016, I had identified public speaking is one of my buckets where I did the mind dump exercise in terms of things I love to do. I had put things like love sharing knowledge with other people. I love being on stage. I love inspiring other people. So all those traits fell into this bucket called public speaking. So in 2016, I identified that is one of my buckets. And my vision was to speak in front of hundreds of people. So I have the bucket public speaking, and my vision under that is to speak in front of hundreds of people, right? So that is the vision part. Next is the goal part. Since you have your vision, you have to come up with goals to reach that vision, to make that vision a reality. And going with the same example, I wanted to speak in front of hundreds of people. And the goal for me to reach that vision was to identify a job that can help me do that, that can help me network with people, that can help me go to different conferences and speak on various topics. And that is why I became a developer evangelist, which was my previous job, right? Everything was strategy, people. I just didn't randomly become a developer evangelist because I had this whole process of what I really want to do in life. So that is your goals. And then you identify your tasks to reach those goals, right? So for example, I want to speak in front of hundreds of people. Then I became a developer evangelist. I want to become a developer evangelist. That was my goal. To become a developer evangelist, I had to do different tasks to get into the job position, right? And these were some of the tasks I did, which is I wanted to read books related to giving great presentations. I recorded myself speaking, and I started trying to improve on my speaking skills. I started researching different conferences where I want to speak at, and then I developed different talks so that I can apply to these conferences. And then I started looking at different companies or looking for people who can speak at conferences apart from doing R&D and stuff. So you see where I'm going with this? Literally everything was a strategy. It started with the vision, then you have the goals, then you have the task to reach those goals, right? And once you identify those goals, you just map it out. I know the workshop is about career advancement, but using these mind dump exercise, you can actually identify other areas you want to improve on as well. And this is literally what I do every 5 6 months, right? And you'll find a copy of this again in the Google Drive link, the screen, so that you can use that as a reference. And I put that on the chat window again. So what you're going to do is, now that you've identified your goals based on all the things which we just talked about and which we just did, you had to put it into 5 categories. Okay. You have your personal category, career, health, family, and wealth. And it's really important to visualize your goals, because let me give you a simple example. Now it's December, and January 1st, 2021, pretty much majority of the people in this workshop are going to have a goal saying you want to get fit or you want to get healthy, right? And what's going to happen is you're going to buy all the fancy ass shoes, t-shirts, the workout gear and stuff, get a gym membership. But now with COVID, yeah, probably you're going to get something in home maybe, right? And then for the first 2 weeks, you'll continuously work out. And then on the third week, you'll work out only for 2 days. Then in the fourth week, you'll work out only for a day. And then first week of February, you'll just forget the goal. Because research suggests that 80%, 80% of the people fall off their New Year resolution by mid-February. That's because they don't visualize your goals, right? So that's why you need to take out all the things you identified and map it into this mind map on different buckets, right? And then take a printout of it and stick it on the freaking wall of your office, on your bedroom, because you need to be focused, right? So if you do what I say, it may look something like this, right? For example, this is just a random example. For example, for your career goals, You could identify things like giving a conference talk, becoming a manager, getting promoted, whatever that may be, right? And then you could even go further outside your career and identify personal goals, health goals, family goals, and wealth goals, right? So that is how you strategically plan your life and plan your career as well. Okay. Yeah, I know I shared a lot of information. So I'm going to take a step back here and we're going to do another exercise here. Okay. So what we did previously was we identified all our strengths. For example, Paulo identified her strengths in terms of improving, want to improve things, learning, functional testing. She loves documentation, and she wants to also keep focusing on that, right? So map that into your career bucket in terms of what you want to do. So you could do something like want to take more courses on giving effective feedbacks or speaking course or a leadership course, right? If you're looking to get into the leadership roles, because you said you're afraid to give feedback and you don't like confrontation. So maybe you may want to take some courses related to that, right? So that could be part of your goal as well. So whatever that may be. So use the template from the Google Drive. The template will look like this. I have this and I also have this for your reference. And what I'm going to do is take about 5-10 minutes and just map out under each bucket: career, personal, health, family. What do you want to do? Okay. So that's what we're going to do right now. And then I'll take you to the final stage of the process where you're going to come up with the action plan to achieve those goals, and I'm going to talk about them. Okay. If you have any questions, put that on the chat window. As usual, just like last time, we're going to start a timer. And again, the goal is to map out different goals under each of these buckets: career, personal, health, based on all the mind dump exercise. Okay. So I'm going to start the timer right now. I'm going to start it. Timer has started, and you have 10 minutes. And if you have any questions, put them in the chat window. So let's do this mind map. Literally, you can use the sheet which I gave you, or you can take a paper and pen, draw goals, and then put career bucket, personal bucket, and then use a paper and pen and start mapping out stuff. So do that right now. Trust me, this is going to open up a lot of things for you in terms of what you want to do next. So let's start doing that right now. And we have about 9 minutes left. Okay. For me personally, I do this. I look at my mind map end of every month to make sure I'm aligning with what I said that I'm going to do, and it helps me keep me accountable as well. And that's what it's going to do for you as well. So I'm going to refill my coffee. And for those of you who want to take a break or want a coffee or beer or whatever that may be, go get it. We have about 8.5 minutes left, and I'll be back in a second. Okay. We have about 6 minutes left. And again, here, there's no right or wrong answer. Just map out stuff and then just like Agile, it's iterative. You just keep going through it and then keep finalizing it. And then January 1st, 2021, you have a whole plan in terms of what you want to do. And all these things I'm mentioning, yeah, I know it also gets into the personal aspect as well. I think to be successful in your career, you also have to have control over your personal life as well. So that's why I'm spending time in this DPA approach specifically, and then we're going to get into more specific things related to career as well. So just in case you're wondering, because we have to first build the base, make it strong, and then we have to focus on the other aspects of our careers as well. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to put that in the chat window. Okay. We have about 5 minutes left. Another 4 minutes. We are going to be talking about LinkedIn and other stuff as well in just a bit. So don't worry. That's not the only thing you're going to do. We have about 2.5 minutes left. We have about a minute left. Thirty seconds. Cool. Think that's time up there. So just this exercise, you would have now mapped out different goals under different buckets, right? So and it's okay wherever you are right now, you can just work on that, work on this, and then have this mind map completed for you to focus on the different goals, right? And once you identify those goals, you have to identify the tasks specific to the goals. So a simple example is, say you want to lose 10 pounds, right? I'm just going to give you a really raw example here. The tasks to identify those goals would be working out twice a week, tracking your food and your weight, reading about it, about your health, then eating salads twice a week, probably having alcohol only twice a week. And if you hadn't guessed it, this is actual list which I had for me to lose weight. So that, because that was one of my goals, which I'd identified, right? And a lot of people would say, come up with 5-year plan, 3-year plans. For me, I'm a firm believer that life changes so drastically. So I come up with 30, 60-day plans and then identify goals and tasks, or you could do a 6-month plan. Um, that's what I usually do, but it's up to you whether you want to do long-term or short-term. And once you identify those tasks for each goal, which you just identified right now, you're going to map that on your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use to schedule stuff. Going with the same example of losing 10 pounds, if you see on my calendar, literally on a weekly basis, I map those tasks and block my calendar so that I constantly keep working on them. So if you see over here, this is just a random example where I'm working out twice a week, I'm tracking my food, so I block my calendar for that. So say, for example, one of your career, say you have a career of you want to be a QA manager, right? And the task for the QA, becoming a QA manager could be taking a leadership course, shadowing your boss, and then volunteering for more leadership opportunities within your current work. And say those were the tasks, then identify that, say, for example, let's go with taking a leadership course task. What you're going to do is you're going to put that on your Google Calendar and say for the first week, you're going to block 2 hours and say research leadership courses. In the second week, you're going to have 2 hours, block 2 hours, and you would say select a leadership course which is good for you. And then in the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth week, you're going to take that course in the exact same time slot for 2 hours. You see how you're making progress gradually on every task you've identified to reach those goals. So always map that to your calendar, and that's how you're going to achieve your career goals, your personal goals, or whatever that may be. And this, people, is the basics of what you need to do right now to map out how you want to do not only your career goals, but also how you want to accomplish your personal goals as well. And the final stage is the action stage, where you are going to take action on what you just did, right? So that is the DPA approach. And the reason I wanted to take a lot of time here is this is the basics of everything you do in your career and in life as well. And this is really, really important. And this has done magical things for me and for other people who I coach. All my clients are like VP, CEOs, CTOs of companies and startup companies. And they follow this basic approach to what in their life to accomplish whatever they want to do. So keep that in mind. In fact, the goal I shared was an actual goal which I had. In 2016, I lost 50 pounds in 6 months. And I literally followed this whole DPA approach to do that. And this picture is not Photoshopped. This is a real picture from me in 2016. So this thing works, and make sure you follow it, okay? I'm doing a time check here. We started about 10 minutes late, so we have another 25 to 26 minutes left. So don't worry, I'm going to give you a lot of stuff related to career as well. And we are going to do some epic stuff here. So next is going to be LinkedIn secrets, which I wanted to share, okay? So LinkedIn is the most underrated and the most high potential productive social network for professionals like us, because your dream job, your dream career, your next big thing is literally right there. I've taken 4 courses on all LinkedIn growth strategies. So trust me, I really know what I'm talking about when it comes to LinkedIn. So the basic thing you need to know is LinkedIn, whatever you put on LinkedIn is SEO information. Everything is indexed by Google. So what do I mean by that? Say, for example, you are a quality analyst, right? You have to make sure on your LinkedIn profile, you put words like Scrum, XP, Agile, then Jira, bug tracking. Use those keywords on your LinkedIn profile, because this is what happens when companies are looking for people. They use recruiting softwares, and that software literally searches for those keywords from your LinkedIn profile. And if you have those keywords on your LinkedIn profile, then you show up within the first 10 results of Google or in that software. And that's why LinkedIn is so important. In fact, my last 4 jobs were from LinkedIn. And literally, it's been about 9 years since I actually submitted a resume. That's how powerful LinkedIn is, right? So enough of me just talking about it. Let's show it and go through what is going to be important for you, right? I'm going to take about 5-10 minutes for the LinkedIn demo. So I have a couple of examples of LinkedIn profiles we can look at. But if someone in the audience here wants to volunteer to look at their profile, we can take that as an example and see what are the different things you need to do to stand out from the crowd and have a kick-ass LinkedIn profile. So I'll give 30 seconds. If someone puts their name, whoever puts their name first on the chat window, I'm going to take their LinkedIn profile as a demo. If not, I'll just go with an example I have, okay? So just put in the chat window. Okay, we do have a we have a couple of people who already put this volunteered. Ramona was the one who first pinged me, so I'm going to take her profile. And let me know that make sure that you're able to see my screen, right? Because I have multiple screens here. At any point you're not able to see what I'm talking about, let me know. So Ramona Saint Andre. So I'm going to take her profile and then use that as an example, okay? Ramona. There we go. I think I saw her. So give me a thumbs up, Ramona, if this is the right profile. I want to make sure I'm not talking randomly about another Ramona. Awesome. Okay, cool. Let's do this. So let's quickly talk about different things you can do with your LinkedIn profile right now to stand out from the crowd, right? So first thing is the picture. So Ramona has a decent picture, which is really important because this is different from Facebook and Instagram, where you have picture with your pet or your beer or whatever that may be. This is a professional network. You need a decent picture. Ramona has that. So that is the first thing. The next thing is the tagline, which is also important. She says, I'm a junior QA software tester and Randstad. That is up to the point, which is good. You could also say junior QA software. You could just say a soft QA analyst or QA tester working with agile teams. You see, you can make the tagline pop because when people look at your LinkedIn profile, your tagline is like your headline, right? So you just want to make sure you pop right away. So that is a tagline. For example, for me, if you see my tagline, of course, I'm in a different line of business, so mine would be look a lot more advanced. So don't worry about that. If you see over here, I say I'm an international keynote speaker, writer, tech career coach. I coach tech folks and land their dream job, help them and become successful leaders, right? So I immediately people looking at my profile know what it is. So you have a decent tagline, but you can also make it a lot sexier and sound even better if you say QA software tester, working with agile projects or something like that, right? But this is good. The next thing is the about page. So it's good that you have some information about the about page. A lot of people miss this point because it's the most underestimated part of your LinkedIn profile, which not a lot of people look at, right? You have some about information, and we all have to make sure we have some information in the about section because this is what is going to also be keyword search and index, and this is your elevator pitch on who you are, right? And in your about section, you want to cover three aspects of it. What do you do? How you make an impact, and what are your skill sets, right? And for Ramona, she says IT professional with diverse background, blah, blah, blah. I've done fields. I've been currently studying in the front end. My desired career path is to be a developer advocate. That's a developer evangelist. That's what I was before. That's awesome. Happiness engineer. This is awesome. You have a good about section. A lot of people do not have that. So that is something to keep in mind. The next thing is the experience. So if you see, she has some description on what she did in some of the companies, but I'm missing information on what she does here, what she has done here, what she has done here, right? Make sure you add description of what you do for these jobs as well, because your experience section is really, really important. That's where you're going to talk about experience with Scrum, XP, Jira, Selenium. Put all those keywords in the experience section because those are keyword search as well, right? So if you see my profile, for example, I literally tell you what I do, right? So if you see over here, I was a developer evangelist at a company, and then I write down exactly what I did. And everything is keyword search and indexed by Google. So when they search for those keywords, I'll show up. So keep that in mind. So just make sure you update these things. Then your education. So what did you do in terms of education being a front-end development, right? You have to add descriptions over here in terms of what projects you did, what languages you worked on, because that is keyword search as well. So you have to keep that in mind, okay? So if you go over to mine, for example, I put what I actually did, right? I graduated with a master's in software engineering, and I literally did my capstone project on exploratory testing, which is for another talk. I'll tell you what I did. But the point is, I literally put stuff over here. I mentioned exploratory testing, so people immediately they notice you, right? So, yeah, you're welcome, Ramona. So you have to add that information. And then you've added your license and certification, which is good. That you definitely need to have that. Volunteering experience, awesome. You added description. People who are watching this, this is a really decent LinkedIn profile. Ramona had some information missing, but see, she's adding all her certifications, adding descriptions of volunteering, and that's really important. Skills and endorsements. So LinkedIn allows you to add 50 skills, 50 skills. So make sure you add 50 skills, right? Whatever you think aligns with you. And then out of the 50 skills, you can make people recommend for the top 3 skills. You can choose which one to get recommended for. So I see you have some skills added over here, but LinkedIn has a limit of 50. So make sure you add all those skills because that helps in keyword search as well. Okay. And then recommendations. Awesome. You have 8 recommendations. So what I do is, for me, I have recommendation on my website and stuff, but on LinkedIn, what you could do is you could do a give and take policy. So go into your network and see who and all you work with and recommend them, and in return ask them for a recommendation. So it's a win-win situation. In that way, you'll have a lot of recommendations, and that is going to stand out from the crowd. Because again, the name of the game is, if there are 1,000 QA engineers, what makes you stand out from the crowd? So that's what we are talking about here. It starts with your LinkedIn profile. And what Ramona has is actually pretty decent. And those are some strategies which you can follow in terms of your LinkedIn profile as well. And I'm just going to do a time check here. So I have about 15 minutes left, and we can cover other things as well. But this is the basics of LinkedIn, right? And you need to make sure all this information is updated. Of course, I talk about more strategies with LinkedIn, how you can tap into your own network, how you can connect with people by cold messaging. And I mentioned those things in my book as well. So you can definitely go check it out or hit me up after the workshop as well. So this was good. Thanks, and Ramona, for sharing. And I appreciate it. So that is with some things you want to do with LinkedIn right now, some simple things you could do to stand out. Okay. So make sure you update all the sections. Then you can tap into your own LinkedIn network, see who is already in your network and start networking with them and connecting with them. If you have a dream career like being a QA manager at Google, if you already have someone in your network who works at Google, that's your opening. You can talk to them and then see how you can get to it, right? You can also message people. Literally go to the search bar and then type in the name of the company, say, for example, Google. You're going to find a list of people who already work there and see who is a QA manager, for example. And then look at their profile and see what their interests are, and then give them a personalized message, something like this. And that is going to help to connect with them. Don't say get on a 60-minute call. No one wants to be on a 1-hour call. Say 15-minute call, and you can extend that to 30-minute. So that's the secret there. So you just say 15-minute call, and people will be more than glad to connect with you. Okay. So we just did a LinkedIn profile analysis right now, and that's what we did. But keep that in mind, and that's what you want to do with your LinkedIn profile. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was cracking interviews, right? And there's so many different strategies when it comes to cracking interviews, right? And we don't have time to go into all of it because I do go in detail about it on my blogs and in my book as well. So you can check that out. But let me talk about 2 things which are going to help you stand out, right? Joel was mentioning an example about a guy or a girl who did something out of the ordinary to get a job with Joel, right? And that's what we are talking about here. So say, for example, you have an interview. What are you going to do? First thing is ask the company who is going to interview you. Most of the people give a schedule with their names, right? And then you're going to take that name and plug that on LinkedIn. And you can get the whole profile of that person. So for example, if I'm going to interview you, Subrameyer, literally put that name on LinkedIn. And then you're going to find all my interest areas based on LinkedIn in my bio, in my LinkedIn details. And then find out some interest things like, for example, I love talking about careers, love talking about AI. And I mentioned that on my LinkedIn profile. So pick those interest areas and then come up with some ideas of an icebreaker conversation. So if you meet me, you would say, I saw you did a keynote on AI and diversity. That's awesome. Immediately grab my attention. You see what I'm saying? So that is a way to immediately break the ice in interviews. And then there's something called the hook technique, which I wanted to quickly talk about, right? So say, for example, there's a situation where you get this question. Tell me about a situation where you had a big problem and you successfully solved it. One way to answer that could be like this, where you say a couple of years ago, we had this issue because we were trying to upgrade to a new version of the app, and then we had a problem, and you talk about how you solved it. Another way of answering that same question is by saying the same thing, which is you talk about what the problem was, and then you stop, or you can continue saying, that is why they call me the therapist in the team. And whenever there are difficult conversations that need to be had, I get called because I'm a good listener and I try to solve problem with empathy. You see the difference between first answer and the second answer? I gave more information to grab the interviewer's attention. So I used the word therapist there. And what the interviewer is going to say is, wow, they gave you the nickname, the therapist? That is interesting. And then I'll reply saying, yeah, it took me a lot of time to get better at difficult conversations. But once I started practicing being a good listener and leading with empathy, it dramatically changed my life. And this is why I was voted as a star performer last year, since I was able to resolve a lot of issues. You see what I did there? I just mentioned star performer while replying. The next question you're going to ask is, or she's going to ask is, wow, you're a star performer? You see what I'm doing there? This is called the hook technique, where when I reply to questions, I wantedly attach 2 to 3 keywords in my replies. I said therapist, then I said star performer, and I'm steering the conversation based on my interests and my strengths, right? And that is the hook technique. And following this approach, I've cracked pretty much every freaking interview in the last 7-8 years, right? And this is a tried and tested method, and it definitely works. So make sure you use the hook technique, where you make the conversation about you and mention things in passing so that you grab the interviewer's attention. Because this is the thing, if you have a 1-hour interview, if you talk about yourself and your strengths for 15-20 minutes, then you have to only answer 40 minutes of questions you don't know what they're going to ask, right? And you're making a mark, immediately making a statement. When you have an icebreaker conversation, you use the hook technique. And I also have more strategies, which you'll find on my blog and book as well. But these are the 2 things which can immediately help to make a difference in your life right now, okay? Next one is salary negotiation. So currently, if you see, you're either looking for jobs or it's performance review time, where you're trying to talk about your annual bonus and stuff, right? Whatever the case may be, a couple of these strategies which I'm going to mention is going to really help you out. The first thing is, say you're looking for jobs or trying to switch to another career, another company. While negotiating salary, you have to keep in mind that it's a win-win situation where both are trying to meet each other's expectations. It's not that one party has to lose for another party to win, right? That's where you can follow a couple of strategies quickly, which I can mention. Is first is the multiple offer rule. So say, for example, they offer you a job, or let me take a step back. Say you bought a car, you're buying a car. You go to one showroom and they say the car is $20,000. And you love everything about that showroom. Then you go to another showroom, they say the car is for $15,000, but you don't like that showroom compared to showroom A. So what are you going to do is, and this is what I'm Asian, this is what a lot of Asians do. So we go to the first showroom and say, hey, I know you said $20,000, but I'm getting a car for $15,000 from another company, but I want to buy the car from you. What can you do for me? right? So I'm making the two showroom companies compete with each other, and I'm sit and watch. The exact same thing applies for your job as well. When you have a job offer, you can always say that you have another job offer from another company for this much money. So what can you do about it, right? And that is the multiple offer rule. And when you start making companies compete for you, that's when magic happens. And that's how I have exponentially increased my salary by 150%. And people who work with me have increased their salary by over 400%, right? And also remember, never mention your salary, give specific salary details. You should always reply in ranges. Say that you deserve 50,000 to 90,000. Or say those ranges, because when you mention a specific number, and if the company decided to give you more amount, you already shot yourself in the foot by giving a low number. You see what I'm saying? So remember some of these things when you're negotiating salary, and even in your performance reviews. What you could do is think about all the things you have done throughout the year. Do a mind dump of all the things you've done. And then when you go for the performance review meeting, mention all these things. And then do research on what salary other people are getting with the same job description that your company and outside the company. And now you have 2 data points, and that's how you also can do annual performance reviews and talk about it. So those are some things you want to keep in mind, right? And so Swati had a good point. She said disadvantages if you go for a lower value. She said doing ranges they will go for the lower value. No, they usually what are you going to do is say, if your job pays you 60 to 90,000, what are you going to do is you are going to say you expect between 70 to 100,000. That's what you're going to say. And then what usually happens is they'll come in the middle, and you will come to 85,000, which is close to your highest range. You see what I'm saying? So when you answer in ranges, that gives them more ideas. And also do your research using pay scale, CNN Money. You can research how much you get paid, and ranges definitely helps. And we can talk more about it offline as well. Okay. We have about just 5 minutes left, and we're going to be done. Don't worry. I'm just going to skim through some of the important stuff, because we already talked about a lot of important stuff. And these things, which I'm going to mention right now, is going to help you as well. Okay. So just stick around for another 5 minutes. We're going to be done. I have a timer over here. We started 10 minutes late, so that's why I'm now finishing up 10 minutes late. So let me see here. So how to be a rock star, right? How do you be successful at work? How do you set yourself miles apart from the competition? Say you already have a job right now. How are you going to outshine other people? That's where some of these strategies, which I'm going to discuss, are going to really help you out. Okay. First thing is building your brand. Your personal brand is everything, people. Say, for example, you have your favorite body wash, which you've been using for 10 years. You've been using that body wash not only because of the price, but because you like the fragrance, because you like the color, because you like the packaging, because you like how durable it is. And there are multiple facets of that body wash which makes you keep buying it for 10 years, right? And you automatically go to buy it. Your career and your personal brand is the exact same thing. It's not just because you're technical. It's not just because you have certifications. It's not just because you attend conferences. It's multiple things which makes up your personal brand. And right now, with COVID, there are thousands of people applying for the exact same job. And in your company, there are 50 to 30 people, 30 to 50 people who are trying to get promoted. What is going to make you stand out from the crowd? That's where your personal brand comes into the picture. This is the single most important thing you need to do right now to make the change. And some of the ways to do that is, again, identifying your vision, goals, and tasks, then growing your network, attend conferences like this and connect with people, and also frequently make sure you update LinkedIn. And finally, invest in yourself, because that's what is going to make you stand out, right? And another important thing is undersell and overperform. So the problem with most of us, including me sometimes, is when they say, hey, can you finish this task A? But when they say, hey, can you, I don't know, build, when they say, can you deliver this package, you would overcome it and say, yes, you can launch a rocket. You see what I'm saying? You overcome it to things, and then you end up not meeting expectations. That's why whenever you're given a task, say a task is going to take 4 days, say that you have to analyze and see how much time it's going to take for you to complete that particular task. And if it's going to take 4 days, say you're going to complete in 5 days. And what you're going to do is try to finish this task in 3 days and then spend the rest of the 2 days to put your stamp on it in terms of what can make your deliverable unique compared to other people. Underselling, overperforming. That's the name of the game. And that's what you want to do. Okay. And then these are some leadership traits. Say you want to transition into leadership roles, or you want to be an effective leader. These are some things you want to keep in mind. Clear goals, expectations, effective communication patterns where you make sure you follow agile practices, collaborate with the team, encourage socialization in teams, right? And that is something you want to do. Then empower your team, where have one-on-one conversations, work on their strengths. And one thing I actually do is I rotate responsibilities, which is every sprint, when I was leading teams, I used to switch. I used to have one person being a scrum master, a tester becoming a scrum master becoming a tester. I used to rotate responsibilities. That's a great way of also empowering the team. And I again talk about more strategies as well on my website and my book. So, but these are some things you can do right now. And I have a couple of minutes left. I'm finishing up. Don't worry. The next thing is recognizing that people have different ways of thinking, right? And telling compelling stories is really, really important. So, for example, if you just see this house right now, if I'd given you 30 seconds and say, tell me 3 things which you recognize from this house, each person is going to come up with different things. Someone will notice the window, someone will notice the color, someone will notice the car behind it, right? That's because everyone creates their own way of thinking based on their experience. In this case, based on their experience seeing houses, right? And that's how our work is as well, because we work with people from different roles. And based on the roles, you need to know your audience and tell a compelling story. So for example, let's just take defect, for example, right? Say you find a defect, the way you tell the story about the defect is going to differ. For a developer, he or she would be interested in the impact of the system and more of the technical information, right? A business person would be interested more about the impact of the customer. A project manager would be more interested in how the defect affects the project schedule. And a release manager, for example, would be more interested in how if it affects the release schedule. So see how one defect which you found, you have to tell a different story based on the roles and responsibilities. So know your audience and tell a compelling testing story. And here are some things which you can keep in mind as well. And again, you'll get the slides and stuff, so don't worry. That takes me to the end of this workshop, where we all have to remember that we all have 2 lives. And the second one starts when we realize we have only one. Don't delay change. Don't delay your transformation process. The right time is right now, and that's what you need to do. Okay. There's a lot of free resources you can check out from this website. I also have my book website. You can check out my book where I cover more of these strategies. And yeah, and this is my private group as well. It's called Skyrocket a Career, where we have a lot of conversations like this. We have about 150 people. So if you're interested, you can check that out. And that's pretty much what I had. This is how you can contact me. No, I went about 2-3 minutes past our 90-minute time, but I really appreciate this opportunity, and I'm going to stick around throughout the day, so hit me up with questions.